Hi, and welcome to your third day of English in the 11th grade. This is also the third day of our unit on Native America, and we are going to be thinking a lot about the beginnings of a world, the way that a nation or a culture makes sense of its origins. And origin story is the word we use to describe that. You might hear it in the pre-assessment. I'm asking you to take the Corn Mother assessment as also another origin story. We're going to begin, though, with a poem from Joy Harjo, who's a Creek Indian, and just listen to the way that she thinks about the beginning or the ending of a world. So here's Joy. So that's Joy, and now we'll consider the Navajo Nation in general, which is kind of a jump. Joy Harjo is a Creek Indian. The Navajo Nation still is in the Southwest, but they're both considering this same concept of how does a culture or a person make sense of their time here? How do we answer these big questions? And I'll posit these questions. What about art and spirituality? Is spirituality a kind of art? Is religion, a set of beliefs, also a kind of art? And if not, what kind of art emerges from those things? Here's the Navajo Nation that we're going to be looking at in a little more detail today. The Pueblo Indian tribe is right next to the Navajo Nation. That will be the subject for our short story later on today. The origin story of the Navajo Nation is really about the original beings traveling through the four worlds. The first world was entirely dark, and they crawled to the second world, which was blue and flooded. So they crawled to the third world, which was yellow, filled with pollen and sun and fire. And then the fourth world, which was glittering or white. That fourth world is the ancestral homeland of the Navajo, and it's still in that same area of the country. Here, I'll show you again. So right here, that ancestral homeland of the Navajo. And that number 4 is really important to the critical to the spiritual teachings of the Navajo, that we are four selves: spiritual, emotional, thinking, and physical. That number, by the way, 4, is a universal number, as a really important one. You'll hear it all over your experiences in the world, from common time in music being 4/4 time, to the fact that babies can count up to 4 naturally, and after that they lose count. So the number 4, it's not just specific to the Navajo. But here is a historian from the Navajo Nation telling us more about this origin story. So I'm going to ask you to pause in a moment, but I'm going to show you what to do. I would like you to go to your Schoology page and open up an assignment called the 4 C's that you're going to use to reflect on what you just saw. And it's going to ask you to connect what Wally, the Navajo historian you just heard, what he said about origins and sets of beliefs about human beings on this planet. You're going to try to connect that to some things that you've already heard in your own life. So to find this document, Schoology has it listed as an assignment. It should be over here for you on the right side. It'll be called English 11 Notes 4 C's, Navajo Origin Story. When you open that up, I'll be able to see that you've opened it. I'd like you to spend about 5 or 10 minutes reflecting in that space. And then when you're done, come back to this video and watch the rest of it. So pause the video, do the assignment, come back to the video. Okay, so you're back, and that hopefully means that you finished the assignment that is in Schoology. We're going to move into another step of the thinking around spirituality using this time fiction. And the story we're about to read by Leslie Marmon Silko, it also is all about death and what we do around death and life to understand it. We will discuss this story on Monday in Monday's class. Your homework will be, your async work will be to read the story and then to be prepared to discuss it. I'm not really giving you a specific discussion question guide. I just want you to know the story. And your entry for today's class will be to reflect on it using a series of sentence stems. But before you read it, I want to give you a little bit of background about what you're going to encounter. This is a story set in the Southwest on a Native American and an Indian reservation in the Southwest. It doesn't say specifically where, but we know that Leslie Silko is herself a Puebla Laguna Indian, so from this area that I've marked right there near Albuquerque, New Mexico. And the setting in terms of time that helps just as you encounter the story, the first sentence or the first couple of sentences introduce you to a character wearing Levi jeans, and already Levi, you know you're in the 20th or 21st century because that just didn't exist a couple hundred years ago. So that snaps you into the present day. And you'll see the word arroyo for a dry creek bed. It's a Spanish word that just means creek bed. That will pop out at you perhaps to orient you to someplace in like more Spanish speaking country in the Southwest. You'll see the word moccasin, which we've looked at already, the specially woven shoes for some ceremonies in some Indian nations. And then you'll see holy water, which is actually coming to us from the European culture of Catholicism. It's used in Catholic ceremonies. Of course, Catholicism spread all over South America, Central America, and North America, so it's predominant in this part of the country as well, the Southwest. I was just explaining the origins of it. Holy water is going to be something that priests use to sanctify a particular space or person. So here's your async homework. Read the story and complete your BGD, your Big Google Docs STEM. Those sentences today are the priest sprinkled holy water on Teofilo, because, so, and but. Be ready to discuss the story and be ready to share those sentences. So there's a lot of async work, just to review all of it with you. There's the fact that you just completed that quick assignment with the 4 C's. There's reading the story and completing Thursday's entry using these sentences. And then there's also this Corn Mother pre-assessment, which is still sitting there on Schoology, and I'd love for you to complete it before next week, the end of next week, so you still have some time. All right, let me know if you have questions.